Um, can I rotate this? Anyways, um, so you guys, most of you guys seem to like what was the song with the lyrics? How high the moon was it, right?
Yes.
Now, why did you guys like the song with with lyrics? Palatable. Why? Easy to listen to. Yeah. Yeah. Couple. What's that? You guys are boring. Come on, guys. Couple of you liked Confirmation, and a couple of you liked what was the other song? What is this thing called Love? I think one person like, what is this thing called Love? Because it was so chaotic and insane, right? Um, with that said, I really wanted to go over some of the theory and stuff, the difference, the massive change between what we're seeing and the jazz that we have been listening to and the jazz we are listening to now and the jazz that we will be listening to, right? Because at first, it's easy to label most of the jazz pre-bebop as pretty square, right? Does anybody know what I mean by square? Somebody besides Easton, what does square mean? Basic, lame, boring, right? Bland, right? So that music is, you could label it as boring and bland, right? This music is a bit more harmonically interesting, right? So if we look at, we haven't really looked at much interesting music harmonically, right? We looked at Art Tatum, who was just about it, right? Harmonically, his music was beyond his years, right? Eddie Lang and Django Reinhardt, those guys are beyond their years. Now, 30 years later, we're finally starting to get caught up to those cats, right? So I want you guys to listen to this. I know it's boring and bland and very square. This is even fairly advanced for just a regular blues, right? A regular blues is going to have, let me look one up. This, good Lord, this is boring. So what kind of chord progression? Let those who aren't musicians know. Come on, guys. Not you either. I know you know. Blues, so it's in what is a chord progression? We're in the key of F, right? So what would B flat be? Think Roman numerals. F is the one chord. B flat would be come on, guys. Earth to students. Close. So let's look at it this way. Scale degrees. So we have F. What comes after F in the alphabet? Okay. What comes after G in the musical alphabet?
A.
Correctamundo. What comes after A? This is going to be B flat. What comes after B flat?
C.
Good. What comes after C?
D.
What comes after E? Or, yeah, E. And what comes after F? Your guys' grade. Right? No, sorry. So this is your one chord. This is your two chord. This is your what?
3.
This is your what?
4.
This is your what?
5.
This is your what?
6.
This is your what?
7.
Lowercase because these are minor chords. This is a dominant chord. This is a major chord. This is a minor chord, and that is a half diminished chord, right? Without getting overcomplicated, okay? It gets to be about a bit much. So if we have F is our one chord, What would B be? B be. What's that?
4.
Yes! Now, what's the other chord that we see in there?
C.
C, which is
5.
5 chord. So now we have a 1,
4, 5.
1, 4, 5 chord progression, which is, what genre of music was that? The blues. That's blues, right? Okay. So, eventually, people got bored of just playing the 1, 4, 5 chord progression, right? It's rather boring, whether you're playing in the blues or you're playing in the jazz, right? Now, this is the most common chord progression in the world. You'll hear it in blues, jazz, pop music, country music, you name it, it's all over the place, right? Then, sometime in the 1950s, a young man named Charlie Parker from Kansas City was playing the blues and got bored with it, right? So we have this that switched to, go away, you, to this. Now, don't just listen to the melody. As I said in the email last week, listen to the bass line and listen to the chords. That's the important part right now. Hear that extra movement within the chords and in the bass line? What do you think about it, Sarah? You look like, oh my gosh. Why is that? You're just perplexed just in general?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Because for the baseline for me it's a little bit muddled out. by
Yeah.
melody, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on it, so I'm looking a little bit more perplexed than normal. Don't mind me.
Okay.
Come along with you. It's on Tuesday.
Preaching the choir, that one, sister.
We're trying our best.
Try not, there's only do. All right, so that everything, there's more movement in it, right? Harmonically, there's more movement, right? The song just keeps pushing forward, keeps pushing, and then cycles back, right? Now you can really hear it. A lot easier to hear it underneath the horns. How many measures are in this tune? 2 measures? Okay, 12, yeah. So it has the same form as the blues, right? In theory, it's in the same key as that blues, right? But it sounds completely different. You see, look. Yeah. So look at those chords. So here we have. What was that again?
1, 7, 3, 5.
No, we're switching keys. We immediately switch keys, right? So if we look at it this way, this standard 145 is gone. That does not exist anymore. Now, this is what we're looking at is called the bird blues. However, if you go to Detroit, they will argue with you. They will call it the Detroit blues. If you go to Toledo, anybody that follows Art Tatum will tell you that it is called the Toledo blues. Because a young man, Charlie Parker, moved from Kansas City to New York City to listen to the one and only Art Tatum. he washed dishes at the same place where Art Tatum played, right? If you study Art Tatum, this is exactly what he did harmonically on the keys. So we start off with the F major 7. So that puts us in the key of F major right away. And then we go to, what's the next chord? E minor 7 flat 5 to A 7 flat 9. Well, where did that come from? So this is either the 7th chord of a key, which is not, and that's the 5 chord, it's a different key, right? So we immediately, after one measure, switch key centers. So the original blues, we stayed within that same key center. We did not move anywhere. So in theory, you could use one scale, and you can use chord tones. Does anybody know what chord tones are? No? So chord tones for F major 7 are going to be F, A, C, and E, right? Those are chord tones. So that's your option to play with, right? Or you could use an assortment of scales, but chord tones. So right here we start in the key of F, and then we migrate to, can anybody guess what key we're in? You two can take a guess. Huh? Key of E? No?
I'm not sure, because isn't minus 0 flat 5, isn't that happening?
It is a half diminished, so you can look at it as, there's two options you can look at it as.
Yeah, that would be the 7th.
It could be the 7th of F, or it can be,
Is it a minor?
it is, I would put it in a minor key.
Okay. So, what is the 2nd of a minor?
Yep. Yep. So we are now in the key of D minor, right? Which is, can anybody tell me what's cool about that? Jessica with her new haircut, can you tell me? No? Anybody?
I forgot the name.
Let me pull it up. Does anybody know what circle of fifths is? Where is it?
They have the same key, but that's the key.
Yep. So if you look right here where F is, and then you see D minor.
Relative minor.
Yes, it is a relative minor. So they share the same notes. However, the tonalities of them sound different. So he went from a major sound to a minor / diminished sound, right? Because a minor 7 flat 5 is a very diminished sound, right? I wish this class had a piano. So you'll get this sound, right? Spooky, scary. Then you get this sound, even more spooky, even more scary, right? Tense, blah, 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 right? So the thing is with jazz and any composition, the trick is about tension and release, right? So he's creating tension through this, especially when he solos, he's creating tension. Now we go to another, so this is a minor key, right? Then we're going to go to E minor 7 to G7. Okay. Now what key are we in? C major, right? So this is a 2/5 chord progression, right? But so this is 2, 5. This is 2, 5, right? Thinking back on the 1/4/5 chord progression, right? Now we're doing a 2/5, 2/5. And then we go to C minor 7 to F7. What goes there? What key are we in now? B flat, right? So we're still in a major key. And then we go to what? This is where he kind of switches things up. We go to a B flat 7. Is B flat 7 the one chord that it should be going to? It's a 5 chord of what? Right. So it's major or dominant. We'll just call it major for now. It's supposed to go to E flat major, right? But it doesn't. Where's it go? Nope, it does this. B flat 7 to E flat 7, right? So again, so what's he doing here? If you're a trained musician and your ears are listening, waiting for resolution, not even a trained musician, someone who has listened to jazz, right? What is he doing to your ears and your brain right now?
He's not releasing that tension. He's just going, basically.
He's growing tension, but he's also, it's one of my favorite things as a musician. He's tricking you. You're expecting it to resolve to a major 7 chord, right? When in reality, it's resolving to a dominant chord. So, again, instead of going, what a lot of guys would do, go from C minor, F7, B flat major 7, he's going, right? That slight change messes with you. And then he does what we call a color change. So from B dominant 7 to B minor 7, right? It's a color change. You're changing the color of the chord from dominant, which is a very like stable, happy sounding chord, to a very minor sounding, which is, anybody? Happy, sad, scary?
Really sad.
Sad. Yeah, most people relate minor to sad. Then he's going to another dominant chord, which you were expecting to resolve to a major 7 sound, right? He's tricking the trained musician's ear, or the jazz fan's ear. And then he keeps doing it with the A minor 7 to D7, A flat 7 to D flat 7, and then G minor 7 to C7, which is just a 2/5, and F, and then F major to D7, right? So color change, major to minor sound. And then the G7 to C7, or G minor 7 to C7 does what? Don't answer this one. So this whole time he's creating tension release, trickery, all these fun things. And then what we call the turnaround. Last measure going back to the top of the form, right? So this is what we call a turnaround. Go from the G minor 7, C7, back to that. Anybody know what that does? Yes, it yawns. Good job. Thank you. No. Does anybody know? The biggest thing in music, creating tension and release. It's resolution. So he's resolving back to that. So it's bringing you back home, right? So in theory, the idea of this entire chord progression, this entire blues form that Charlie Parker invented, is to create tension and release, create some kind of confusion, right? And then it brings you back home. And then it starts back all over again. So it's this big giant cycle. Does that make sense? I'm trying to explain this the best I can to non-musicians, right? But it's important to understand those things, right? Now listen to it again. You guys hearing that movement? I was switching centers. Wait till the piano solo comes on. It's a lot easier to hear. And it's pushed back all over. So is that making sense to you guys, or are you just like, shut up and go home? Yes?
No.
No. You laugh, so I mean, to me, it's yes, right? So, okay, moving on. So most of you guys said "How High the Moon" was your favorite song, right? And it was by Benny Goodman, was it? Yes, there we go. So this one, that's the chord progression for this tune. All right. So what key are we in? You be quiet. Come on. Pretty simple. I give you a hint. It's the first chord, which would be. I can't hear you, Easton. No, you can answer this one. I told him not to answer. Yeah, we're in the key of G major, right? But then we go to what key? So what key is where? So we started off in G, right? And this is a 2 and a 5. So what's this 5 the key of? C7 would be in what key?
Drummer. I can start with G.
So that would put us in the key of F major. And then we go to another key, right? Go from F major to F minor to a dominant chord, which puts us in E flat major, right? So all these 2 5s resolve to a 1 chord, right? So 2 5 1, 2 5 1, 2 5 to a trickery of a minor chord. It should be a major 7 chord right there, right? And then a 2 5 in minor. Then we're back, right? So these 2 5s are very common in the jazz world, right? So continuing listening to Benny Goodman's version, the bass movement, key movement, and all that fun stuff. I understand why you guys like this. I mean, it's very relaxing. It's calming. Beautiful voice, right? What's that? I not familiar. I mean, it's beautiful, right? You got that super sax in the background. So listen to the movements. The key center changes, right? Key change, key change, and back to the top. We're in G. We're in F, not E flat major. G minor, A7 flat 9. G major. Sorry, I was wrong. Okay, now the reason why I chose that song specifically was I want you to see something. What key are we in right there? Sorry, what?
I said to be at the top, but I don't think it's correct.
Okay, Okay, you don't trust yourself?
It's been a hot second since I've read music, and the last time I read it was when I used to do choir.
And choir musicians never read music. I mean, you guys like, oh yeah, it goes up this way, so I'm gonna go up that way.
Dude, I used to be able to close my eyes and see the sheet music for that class, man, it was awful.
Dude, I had to work with a choral conductor this whole last week, and I'm used to if you're gonna conduct, or we were doing Hadestown. If you're going to conduct, there's a thing you have to do. There's this thing called a one beat, right? The downbeat. You have to give it, right? You don't go.
Yeah, like a
That's
song.
choral conductors, right? Okay, guys, I'm choral. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, when you're counting somebody off at 1, you have to, there's your one beat, your downbeat. You need that specifically. You can't be like, the whole friggin' time, and she's got her baton and everything. I'm like, ugh. The worst part, though, is a lot of the songs were in like 3 or 6/4, right?
Yeah.
She'd count the songs 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're all like,
Oh,
Oh,
huh? Huh? I'm like, whoa, and stop. I'm like, what are we in right now? Are we at 6? Are we in 3? Are we in 4? What are we doing right now?
no, I wanted too much to add. I had the choir teacher I speak of, she used to throw shoes at students.
Oh,
She was a terrible person. She had a spray bottle full of water, and she'd go up and spray people with it if they were singing the wrong sections.
sounds like most choral people.
She was insane.
Yeah.
I don't understand what her problem was. I live with PTSD of that, and also we always sang the bargain bin choir songs, as I referred to them as, because they were all really garbage.
Choral teachers. Ugh.
I
right.
apologize.
So, okay, back on subject. What key are we in? Guys, another hint. It's the first chord. G, golly, I think we're in the key of G, right? And then what does it do? It goes to G minor, and then it goes to C7, and then F, and then F minor, and then B7. By George, what is happening here? I'm confused, right? Somebody tell me. Goodness gracious. Are those all the same chords? All the same chord progressions? By George, I think they've got it. Right? So what does that mean? What do you guys know any idea of? Do you know what this is called? What is it called when you take a chord progression and borrow it? Because remember, you can't copyright chord progressions. You write a chord progression, it's a free-for-all. Right? Because otherwise, whoever wrote the first 145, whoever recorded the first 145 chord progression of 16251, billionaires, right? Because they own the rights to all of those songs. You can't copyright chord progression. So if you like a chord progression, you can borrow it, right? Now, you can't do it with riffs though. Riffs are different. So don't go and stealing heavy metal riffs from other musicians because there's a guy on YouTube right now who's getting his pants suit off of him for doing that. The thing is, you can borrow any of these chords, right? And we call this a contrafact. Right? A contrafact is when you take one chord progression, you erase the melody and put your own melody on top of it, right? And that's what Charlie Parker did, right? Now, you can't borrow melodies. The moment the melody is recorded, who does it belong to? Whoever recorded that melody, whether it's a melody, or a solo, or anything, right? Even with Louis Armstrong playing those single note melodies. That's his. You can't play that melody and get royalties for it. That's his melody. So, same chords, popped up, a lot faster, different melody. With that additional F sharp after minutes to B7 flat 9. It's the only difference. that was okay. This is an improvisation. Fluttering at 16 notes, syncopations, on beat the end of beat one or the end of beat four, right there, perfect example. Okay. Now Nate, he's live streaming this because I told him I was like, you might not want to. He told me he was gonna miss class, and I was like, this would be fun, so I live streaming. Again, if you guys ever want anything live streamed or whatever, by all means. Nate brought up a good subject: sampling. Can you sample? Is it legal to sample?
Can you just define what that means?
So sampling is borrowing something from somebody else. So a lot of hip hop is sampled. Older hip hop definitely was sampled. So anything from the late 70s all the way up until pretty recent. Then they started actually producing a lot of their own stuff. It got easier for them to produce with computers and stuff. But a lot of it is sampled, right? So think P. Diddy and I'll Be Missing You. Well, go ahead.
I can add to it actually. I think it's Stevie Wonder's Pastime Paradise was sampled to make Gangster's Paradise, then Weird Al made Amish Paradise. It's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same, but who gets the royalties?
I guess that would be Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder gets a giant chunk of the royalties, right? You know, well, record label gets it, then Stevie Wonder gets it. But so for example, Sting did Sting and the Police. They did, I forgot what the song is called, but then after Biggie Smalls was killed, don't stare in the mirror and say Biggie Smalls 3 times, right? He'll come and get you, right? After Biggie Smalls died, they did I'll Be Missing You, which was a sample of a Sting song. And he did not get permission to do it, right? So what did Sting's lawyers do? They sued the daylights out of him. He didn't stop the production of the music or it being played because guess what? P. Diddy has to pay him $7,000 a week for those royalties. A week, right? Yeah. And it happens all the time. What was that one song, White Lines, that came out a few years ago where Miley was twerking on stage? That guy, they had to pay a whole bunch of money. Coldplay stole well, Coldplay didn't steal it because they don't write their own songs. This was very bad in the eyes on them. Is they stole a song from their writer stole a song from Joe Satriani. Joe Satriani heard about it, sued the daylights out of them, won, but his stipulation was, I get the royalties for the song because it was a massive hit. I don't know the name of the song, but it was a massive hit. So Joe Satriani's rolling in the dough these days because of that. That's what happens when you steal people's music.
I know Bruno Mars got in trouble for
Yep.
stuff for Uptown Funk.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, somebody's going to get sued.
I was like, this song's a bop, and then,
And, you know, the plenty of rappers used to do that back in the day. They didn't care or they didn't know, right? It was one or the other. They didn't care. So, you know, a lot of times, like, what's his name? Kanye got sued for doing one of my favorite rap songs of all time by Talib Kweli, Get By. It was a jazz. He sampled something from jazz, and then person heard it and was like, that's my grandma playing. Calling up a lawyer, right? Go ahead.
Would randomly making remixes also count as stealing too at that point? Because I was hearing a bunch. I've heard one that's Biggie Smalls, but it's mixed with Tom's the Tank Engine. I don't know why.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of fired.
That's I mean, and now the algorithms on YouTube and other sources are so accurate. Like, I will put up a video of me playing along to a song and they'll take it down. I'm not trying to monetize it or anything. They're like, you don't own the rights to it. Gone.
Yeah, no, I thought it would require, because I know a lot of people make remixes online,
Yeah.
either what maybe a slowed or sped up remix for that weird like core.
TikTok's the only one that doesn't really care
Yeah.
because they're not stationed here in the States and they don't care about royalties. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was,
Oh, okay. So, again, so what they were doing then was, yes, go ahead.
Sampling like soup with Ice Baby. And
Yeah,
Pressure.
yeah. And he won. Why did he win?
Because he had like
One extra note.
Yeah.
So Queens is dun 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 dun, right?
Yeah.
Illinois is dun 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 dun. That adding one octave note changed it, won him the battle, right? But then he had to sign those royalties over to Suge Knight. Suge Knight held him over a balcony, according to Illinois, right? So, what was I going to say? All right, so yeah, they took all that stuff. They took the traditional jazz, right? Benny Goodman and all that, and amplified it, right? They took the chord progressions and they added these things to create tension. They added speed to it. That was the biggest thing. If you watch, like, what was the tempo marking on that tune? I think it was like 260, 208, okay? And Benny Goodman's was probably around 100. That, around 126, 25, somewhere in that area. So just shy of being double of what it originally was, right? And live, I guarantee you, they played it over double. So moving on. Now, I want to take somewhat of a deep dive into this, but we'll have to listen to it first. Anybody tell me what instrument he's playing? I was gonna say, don't answer. Okay, so what do you guys think about that one?
There's a lot up and down the scale.
Uh-huh. Very scale friendly.
That is very few breaks in it too. There's some like breaks here and there, but it's just enough to catch, I guess, a small bit of your breath before you continue playing.
Yeah, it really is. That's all he's doing is catch his breath. If he had the ability and could play like a guitar player, he would. Where'd that chord go? What else? Anybody else? There we go. Was that too much? Could you listen to that for an hour? No, neither could I. It's too much. It's like going to see Yngwie and just like, I'm gonna get another beer. It's just way too much, right? Now this is Clifford Brown when he was in the Jazz Messengers with Max Roach. And Max Roach was a phenomenal drummer and a funny drummer because everybody in the band would be dressed to the nines, right? You were supposed to dress to the nines. You're still supposed to dress to the nines as a jazz musician. Separate yourself from the audience. However, Max Roach would wear overalls and nothing else. Nothing underneath. He would go commando and just wear overalls.
What is he one of the dudes from the Come On Eileen music video?
Yes, yes. He's just. I think he was a good old boy and hated regular clothes. I don't blame him. I mean, I don't mind dressing up, but I'd rather be, in my joggers and a hoodie right now. Sorry. But my professor, my piano professor, Tad, was obsessed with Clifford Brown. Thought he was one of the finest players of all time. So much so that he sought out his wife to hang out with her. Because Clifford Brown died at like 25 years old in a car accident. Very common in those days. Because were cars safe in the 50s?
No.
Were people sober driving in the 50s? No,
Most of it-
absolutely
I
not.
just found that wasn't illegal in the 50s.
What, drinking and driving? It wasn't illegal until the 80s, dude. I remember people drinking and driving. What's that?
Michael Jackson had played for that drunk driving.
Yeah?
Michael Jackson's the one that pushed for the 21-year-old drinking.
You know what? Now I don't like them. No, nobody was sober driving back then. Nobody wore seatbelts. The cars weren't safe at all.
The steering wheels would basically implant themselves in your face.
Yeah,
too, if you
they didn't have
were
airbags.
too.
No. Have you ever ridden in a car from the 1950s?
They're terrifying.
Very unsafe. They had drum brakes, which were terrible. It was very unsafe, and everybody was drunk or on amphetamines or on heroin. It was a terrible time to be driving.
Have you seen the baby, like, basically car seats from the 1950s?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
Metal rods. held
Dude,
together.
I remember growing up in the 80s and sitting up in the front seat, no seatbelt. Or,
Your parents smoking.
yeah, oh, yeah, my dad would crack the window like that much. You'd be like,
It's raining outside. You know? Yeah, it's okay. Kid,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah.
I grew up in the same time period.
dude, my dad had a Fiero. Sister in the shotgun, my dad in the driver's seat, and me in the center console.
Yep, that's
Car accident, little Chad goes flying, right? Or if you were fancy and had a station wagon or a pickup truck, you rode in the bed of the pickup truck, or you rode in the bed or the back of the station wagon, looking at the people behind you waving or flipping them the bird, right? That was the 80s and early 90s. Totally safe back then, right? But anyways, so Tad sought out her or his wife and had conversations and stuff like that. And his hobby, so looking at this, what would you think his hobby was? Not playing music, but what was his interest? What was something that when he was done playing, what he did in his free time?
I don't know, I'm sitting free diving.
Free diving? Maybe. What? Also definitely a possibility. I mean, yeah, jazz musicians were no strangers to substance abuse. So definitely a possibility. I mean, Charlie Parker died at 35, broken, bloated, because he was a heroin addict. And on the East Coast, you get heroin all day. He was happy to get his heroin. West Coast, couldn't get heroin, so he became an alcoholic. Right? It's partially not his fault. It's very similar to what the Rust Belt situation has gone through. You know, you hurt your knee, doctor says, well, here's some opiates. For the pain, or you get surgery, here's some opiates, right? And then next thing you know, you're hooked. And then you can't get a prescription, but you can score some dope on the streets. So, same situation with Charlie. He was in an accident when he was a kid. Doctor prescribed him opiates, and then he was hooked from there his entire life, right? Not necessarily his fault. And that's the way I look at it with the epidemic that we've been going through. It's not necessarily the mom that had surgery, or Prince, right? You know, Prince had hip issues, doctor prescribed him opiates. And then he can't get them, so he gets them from a friend, and then, they're laced with fentanyl, and he's gone, right? It's not Prince's fault. He's a victim of circumstances, I guess. That's the best way to put it. I'm sure we've all known somebody that's been down that right. But anyways, no, his hobby was, anybody guess? Mathematics. Like, very difficult mathematics. Like, no, that's Max Roach. Clifford Brown dressed to the nines. No, so he liked doing like quantum physics and stuff like that. That was his hobby, right? Now, breaking this down, this transcription of his, so right here we have an A7 chord. It's a dominant chord, very stable chord. And then automatically, as soon as he starts to play over that A7, the very dominant, stable chord, what does he do? What is that note that my mouse is on? Some of you know how to read music. It's a B flat over an A, right? So the piano is playing a B flat or an A, and he's playing B flat right on top of it. Now that creates this sound. I want you guys to tell me if it's a pleasant sound. So let me try to figure out how to play this. So, oh gosh, what a stretch. So it's basically this sound.
Not very full.
And then, you know, if I want to play on guitar, it's going to sound like that. Or like this. Right? So it's not a very pleasant sound, right? But he starts with that. Starts with like, here's this ugly bleh sound, right? And then he resolves it right away. Right? So he creates that tension and release. Then he goes through all these nice, an F sharp would be the 13th, the major 13th to the 5th to the 4th. Not a good choice, but it resolves it right away to what? Yeah, the 3rd. And then makes it a minor, right? And what he's doing here, oh, look, what does he have right there again? A B flat, creating a flat 9 sound, right? But that's a half diminished chord, so he's nailing that sound that he's supposed to be nailing. But what he's doing, he's implying these different tonalities over these chords, right? So when you imply different tonalities over chords, you create different sounds. You create extra tension, right? And that's the beauty of what he liked to do. He was a big fan of using diminished over anything he could. That diminished sound that I pointed out just now, he was able to use that sound over major chords, over dominant chords, over minor chords, right? Anywhere he wanted, he could place diminished, which was brilliant. And he could resolve it, chef's kiss, like that, right? The other thing that he liked to do is apply the jazz melodic minor scale over it. Now, the beauty of the jazz melodic minor scale is, can you tell me, do you know much about it yet?
Is it the minor third, minor second?
It's a minor thirds. It's a scale with a minor third and a major seventh, right? So it's a conflicting scale within itself. In the chord, you're going to get something that sounds like this. Now, what's that sound like? How does that make you feel? Anxious? Good. Tense, right? Now, if I were to play that scale over a F major 7, I give it the sharp 11 sound, which is flat 5, which is diminished, right? So more tension. It also creates this thing called the augmented scale. Does anybody know what that is? Let's see if I can find something to demonstrate the augmented scale, because I can play it for you, but it's not going to sound as cool. No, augmented is from it's something else. Lydian is the sharp 11 sound.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut the.
Yeah, sharp 5. Sharp 5, creating a large distance between the root and the 5th. Now, are you guys familiar with Bernard Herrmann? No?
No. I'm sorry.
Good.
I'm looking at the Kill Bill thing too. I've never seen Kill Bill either, man.
Yeah.
I know he's a music dude, but.
You've never seen Kill Bill?
No.
You guys want to guess what her grade for the semester is?
I'm sorry. I've
What's
never
that
seen-
right there?
I don't even ever see The Godfather or Taxi Driver. I'm just gonna keep adding the movies I haven't seen to it too. I'm sorry for being a disappointment. I just
You
don't-
remind me of all my students in my film or music and film class.
I've seen Metropolis from 1929 though. If that makes anything any better.
No, because Robert De Niro. You talking to me?
I know this is not lying. I just
Nate, help me with these kids. Now, all right, this one boggled my mind in my class. I could not wrap my head around this because we were talking about Bernard Herrmann and some of the music he creates, and it's like he's supposed to be creating the tension between, it's film noir, he's creating the tension between the female and the detective, right? So it's love and tension, right? So the music's supposed to represent love and tension. And I was, saying it's like that first date that you guys have been on, and everybody looked at me blank. I was like, whoa, hold on. Raise your hand if you've been on a date. And nobody raised their hand. None of them. Nobody. It
It's hard to
freaked
date
me out.
these times.
They were like, I'm 18. I'm like, and I was going on dates when I was a kid. Like, how did? Shocking. Blows my mind. Anyways, so Bernard Herrmann was a big fan of that, along with using flat nines. And flat nines are right there. Flat nines and sharp 11s. Now, you've never seen Taxi Driver?
No.
Okay, here's flat nines and sharp 11s. Yeah. Yeah, flat nines and sharp 11s. No, those are sharp 11s again as well. Flat five. Right? Now, famous flat nine sound. I'm not going to tell you guys this. You guys are going to have to guess this one. Um, yeah. Now, does that sound happy?
No.
Yeah. But I mean, that's also an interval that is used a lot. And so let's take so back to what was it, 1992? Pantera. That's the flat nine sounder. Megadeth. Heavy metal. It's used all over the place. Metallica. All that stuff. Flat nines create tension and release, just like sharp 11s or flat fours, or sharp 11s or flat fives. So like right? You create tension. So that's the beauty of that stuff. It sounds dark, but it creates that tension. If you, a lot of people are like, heavy metal's so scary, blah 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 blah. Metallica just came out with a new documentary, or is coming out with one. It's called Metallica Saved My Life, and people are like, "How can you listen to that music? It's so dark, it's so heavy, it's so scary, blah blah blah." If you actually listen to it, it's not, because there's always some form of resolution involved in it, right? So, and if you like horror films, or if you like jazz, or anything like that, there's always a sense of resolution, almost always. And it's just something like Bartok. There's no such thing as resolution when you're listening to Bartok, which is okay, right? So okay, I will send you guys your listening report probably tomorrow. I'll make it due by next class. Okay, pretty lenient on this stuff, right? So I'd just be listening to a song, and then you have to fill out these things. So max half hour. Okay. Anybody got any questions on that, or any questions about what we covered today? No? We all good? Starting next week, we'll be back to a normal schedule. No more 12-hour days for me.
Rats. Meet the rats.
These 60-hour weeks are killing me. I woke up this morning so, all right. Anyways, guys, have a great day. Thank you for all the patience and being awesome. Again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to